The craziest thing I ever did was I came across.
What? So you mentioned your accent.
Mm-hmm.
What is the origin of it?
Because COVID hit and everybody was like, who's out the door?
Right.
I'm like, it's me. Like,
Welcome to the Nest Podcast. Today's guest is your favorite realtor with two names, Miss MaryBeth Walsh. MaryBeth, thanks for coming on.
thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. So talk to me. How did you get that name, that nickname?
Yes, it's actually a hashtag, okay? So you don't know this, but, well, maybe you do know this. How long 7 years you've been in the business?
Almost 8.
Almost 8. So it was like around that time, like whenever you were like just getting started, you were coming, meeting any and everybody that you could, right?
Sure.
And so it was you and I and Jennifer, now Guillory, Jennifer Bergeron Geller. And we were sitting in the office and another agent walked by and you're like, hey, like, there's my favorite agent. And I was like, well, what am I? Who am I? You were like, well, you're my favorite realtor with 2 names. And I was like,
No way.
oh, well, that's sticking. And so the very next day, I had a BNI meeting, which we can talk about this later, but that's been like a huge part of my business. So I was a brand new member of BNI, and
Okay.
you have to have a slogan.
Okay.
And so when you stand up and introduce yourself, and I was like, hey, I'm MaryBeth Walsh, your favorite realtor with 2 names. And everyone just like laughed and they were like, oh my God, that's so you. And to this very day, every Tuesday at 11:30, if you come to a BNI meeting, it's like, hey y'all, I'm MaryBeth Walsh, your favorite realtor. And then they fill in the blank. They're like 2 names. Also, I have an accent, so that's kind of like making fun of me, but it's like a thing. So I have you to thank for that.
I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like me. I'm usually quick on my feet.
Yeah. Yeah, very witty. And you're like, oh, you're my favorite realtor with 2 names. And so anyway.
I did not know. Thank you for, wow, what a gift.
What a
birthday
gift.
present. I didn't know, well, to remind me that I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 10% cut of all your, for marketing expenses.
Oh, right.
Come to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. So you mentioned your accent.
Mm-hmm.
What is the origin of it?
So I'm from Ruston, which, if you don't know where that is in North Louisiana, somewhere between Shreveport and Monroe, for those who don't know where that is. It's a little piece of heaven. And I was born there, raised there, went to college there, met my husband there, had my first child there, and then we moved to Lafayette.
Went to college. That's La Tech.
Louisiana Tech.
Bulldogs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So graduated from there with my undergrad in marketing.
Okay.
And started my master's. I worked there. I was director of transfer admissions.
At Louisiana Tech?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so.
And what was the master's in at the time?
MBA.
MBA? Okay.
One of my biggest regrets is that I didn't finish.
Okay.
That's okay. I had some grad classes under my belt. I know how hard it is.
I recall, I graduated probably like you. I graduated at 22. I was on time. And I had wanted to go straight to get an MBA as well. I had a science teacher actually from high school whose son was an investment banker and was super kind. He came in during the holidays. He lived in New York. I think he worked for First Boston at the time. He did M&A, mergers and acquisitions. He came and had coffee with me during Thanksgiving break it was the fall of my senior year of college. So this was late 2002. And I got really interested in doing it, and I wanted to keep going, right? We invested the time. Obviously, it was to get knowledge, but with knowledge comes healthy incomes, and, I wanted to be successful and stuff. And what I found, I actually got discouraged through the MBA process because what I found along the way through my research was that if you go to the big schools, the minimum requirement, like you had to have 3 to 5 years of work experience to get in. And I remember thinking that was silly. Like, hey, why would I go get a dead end job for 3 years, come back, pay all kind of money, and maybe not be able to work full time just to get in debt to go do it again? And I actually didn't pursue it at all. But I was ready to take I think it was the GMAT and all of that stuff. And ultimately, knowing what I know now, I didn't know anything at 22. I think there would have been no useful conversations that I would have been able to contribute to because I think it's more of a group environment.
Yes.
With the MBA and stuff.
Yeah, I am a learner, a natural learner. So like put me in a classroom, I'll be there. I'll be on the front row. I'm going to learn any and everything I could. So working at a university, I was like, why shouldn't I go ahead and get my master's? And so, but then it got to be overwhelming. And then I got pregnant with our oldest son. And so then a lot of life happened and I just never finished. But that's okay. Same with you. Like, I don't know, maybe, but I could not be able to pinpoint if I go back today and get my master's, how will that advance me in my career? You know, it may or it may not, and I'll probably never know. But
yeah, I don't know that it would. I wouldn't have any regrets about that if I were you.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's more of a thing. Like I'm just not a quitter. Like that's
Sure.
really what it is
Sure.
that I like gave up on something.
Gotcha. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I didn't even start. It's
Well,
all good. No, I think where we are with careers and work and stuff, I don't know. I think the ROI for the time and the money it would take to go and get one,
yeah,
I don't think it's there. You know, perhaps if you go corporate job or you would, do something else later, maybe. But,
yeah,
And even then, if you did something later, but you got your MBA now, but let's say you don't do that for 5-10 years, the world's going to have changed 2 or 3 or 4 times. Technology is advancing so rapidly with all of this stuff. Your education, your master's education may be antiquated 5 years from now. So
you're right.
we're all in the spot that we're supposed to be in. So
I agree.
Talk to me about how you made it down here from up there.
Okay. So, like I said, I was living in my little piece of heaven, my little bubble of Ruston. Truthfully, we bought our first house there. Like we were going to be there for the long haul, like probably forever. I have a very big family. Everyone lives there. It was just my little bubble. I call it my little bubble. So, in 2012 is actually when I got my license. Shortly after that, obviously,
Got your license in Ruston.
I got my real estate license in Ruston. And really as like a side gig because I had my job at the university. It was kind of like I think I'm going to get my license. My sister just really, really encouraged me to do it because she was like, I think you'd be really good at this. I think you need to call Robin. Robin, who is my ultimate mentor. She lives in Ruston.
She's the OG.
She's the OG. And to this day, like we still pick up and talk at any given time that I need advice or anything.
Did you say her name was Robin?
I did say her name was Robin.
Spelled the same way as my last name?
She has a Y.
A Y, okay.
But my sister, her name is Robin, and it's spelled the same, Robin.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. So the Robin is the OG to the MBW.
Right.
See, there's your rap song.
There it is.
How about that?
There it is.
All right, so you go to Robin.
So I go to Robin. I'm like, hey, is this crazy? She's like, oh my gosh, I just opened my own brokerage. Like, I would love for you to join me. And so it was a side gig. And in Ruston, because it's a very small town and I have a big family, I could like walk down the street and be like, know most people and maybe they needed to buy a house or sell a house. So building clientele in Ruston was not very hard. Or at least I would have the opportunity to interview it if somebody was looking for a realtor.
Somebody knew somebody who knew somebody. You could get in front of whoever you needed to get in front of.
Yeah,
Okay.
and because it was a side job, I wasn't so focused on
No pressure.
where's my next client coming from.
Right.
And so in 2013, our first son was born. 4 months later, my mom passes away. A month later, my husband loses his job.
Wow.
And then we were offered an opportunity in Lafayette. So like when I say life happened in a year, like life happened. I was grieving. Oh, I turned 30 also in the mix of all that. And you think you're old then, but then, now I'm almost 40. So we picked up our entire bubble and moved to Lafayette where we knew 0 people. we knew my sister-in-law and her husband, and those were the only people that we knew.
That's a lot of stuff to happen in 4 months.
It's a lot. Now it's ended up spiraling down to about a year. So from the time,
But still,
it's a lot. And honestly, it wasn't until like a couple years ago that I had to really, really unpack everything that happened, because shortly after we moved here, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to go work at the university. I'm going to work at UL. Like I worked at UL. I mean, I worked at a university in Ruston, so I'm just going to do that and do real estate on the side.
sure.
Well, that didn't happen. Doors kept closing. And I was like, well, I'm doing this. I know 0 people here, but like, I'm going to go sell some houses somehow. And I walked in to Keller Williams was where I held my license there. And I walked in, I met some very, very important people on my first day. And truthfully,
Nice.
that was what kind of led to really where I am today. I was not afraid to pick up the phone. I was strangely really good at cold calling. And so I would chase internet leads. Like if you were clicking a button on Zillow, I was calling in the next 5 seconds. Like that was happening. And a lot of my, like, even if like anyone happens to hear this, a lot of my really close clients and friends were introduced to me through Zillow.
No way.
I know. It's kind of crazy. But it was more of like, hey, I see you're looking at a house. Like, how can I help you? And it just naturally evolved. I have a weird way of like connecting with
No,
people.
I think it's the way I would describe it, I would say it's your energy's good.
Thank you.
The tempo of your voice, the cadence, all of it. The energy is energetic. I don't think that I'm good at it because I don't think my energy's bad. I don't think it's like I recognize other people when they have a certain type of energy.
Yeah.
I think I have more of a vibe once I'm in flow and all that stuff. But as far as like the first 10 seconds, I don't think like you have that more than I do. I think all things being equal, you would be better on the phone than me.
Well, thank you. And it's not like I like try. Like I would literally call someone and be like, "Hey, it's MaryBeth," and they'd be like, "Who?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a realtor in Lafayette. Do you want to buy a house?" Like, I don't know. I don't know where that innately comes from, but
It's just you.
like to talk, I guess. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got started. So when your back is against the wall and you have to make a decision for you and your family on how you're going to put, food on the table, that's kind of how I got my start. And I hustled, and man, some of that was just really not fun. And a lot of it was just every transaction was just a learning experience and learning more and more and more. So not only was I new to the area, I knew the business. I just had to learn the area. I had to learn the market. The market's totally different here than in Ruston.
How long were you practicing realtor in Ruston?
2 years.
Okay, so you had some experience on your
So
belt.
I had some experience, and like I said, I knew.
That's probably why you were able to hit the ground running pretty well.
Maybe.
And then you took off when you got your moniker inadvertently, the realtor with 2 names.
Yes, right.
Okay.
And so the craziest thing I ever did was I went to the mall and I like introduced myself to every single person that I came across.
What?
Yes.
The mall?
The mall, the Acadiana Mall.
Like the food court?
I wasn't even close to the food court. I actually was asked to leave. But
Really?
seriously, that's the craziest thing I've ever done. And when I left, I was like, "Jonathan, you're not going to believe what I just did." He was like, "What'd you do?" And I was like, me and Jeannie, my friend Jeannie, went to the mall and we introduced ourselves to like over 200 people. And he was like, "Well, did you get any business?" I was like, "I mean, maybe I'm going to follow up with the people that actually interacted with me." And I sold a house from meeting a girl named Ashley at the mall.
No way. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's a story.
So it wasn't a wasted day. If anything, it boosted my confidence. Like,
Yeah, if you can do that, you can do anything.
yeah.
I had a similar one. So my first job out of college was at Bank One before it merged with, or was acquired by Chase Manhattan, and they merged to be JP Morgan Chase. And everything that we are now, sum total of the experiences, right? So one thing that I was required to do, I was a branch banker, and there were days where they asked me to go out in the drive-through lanes. And while people were rolling their windows down with money,
Yeah.
and try to tell them hello, but it wasn't just meet and greet stuff. Like the goal was to schedule an appointment or to get them to physically drive around and then come sit in.
Right.
In
Come
the
open
branch
a
with me.
savings account.
Yes. I hated it. But lo and behold, looking back, I'm having flashbacks while you're telling me the story. If I could do that, I mean,
Right.
like I don't have call reluctance. I know a big thing that I've gotten feedback on is, hey, I can't get anybody to like call people, or that type of thing. And I'm like, what? That's way better than standing out in the drive-through lane,
Yeah.
with people looking at me like I'm a crazy person.
Right. And if all else fails, if you walk out the door tomorrow and you have 0 clients in your pipeline,
That's right.
you can go knock on someone's door and have a conversation with them.
I'm assuming you've done that before, and you're probably pretty good at that too, right?
Door knocking is a thing, and I do not love it.
Okay, just a tool in the toolbox that
It's
you
a tool,
occasionally.
yes, it's
implement?
not. I will cold call all day long before I go knock on doors, but I'll do it if I have to, if I need to.
Okay.
Yeah,
When
there's
was
not
that?
much I won't do.
When was the last time you did it?
Ooh, door knocking?
Yeah. Pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID.
Okay.
Because COVID hit and everybody was like, "Who's out the door?"
Right.
And I'm like, "It's just me." Like,
So you were in your element. You were just beating the phones. Well, actually, the phones were just kind of ringing. But
right.
yeah.
I had a baby 10 days before the world shut down. So I was in
Did you
maternity.
really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize
Our
that.
third son was born 10 days before COVID shut down.
I forgot
the world.
I forgot you were pregnant for the third.
So yeah. So I was in maternity leave, and I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, my kids are home. What? I'm on maternity. Like, you're supposed to be, maternity leave for me was like just this zen, like you're at home with your baby and all the worries go away. I mean, the momming thing, but yeah. And then my phone would literally just ring, which was great for anybody. I mean, if you're a realtor and you could breathe, you could sell houses in 2020.
Sure.
Not to take away from our industry, but it was kind of the frenzy.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of distorted perceptions of how things go when it's easy.
When it's easy.
When it's easy.
When I got my license in 2012, I didn't know that was like the worst year to get your license. That's when the oil crisis happened.
In 2012?
In 2012, I think. Anyway,
Okay.
people were like, "You're getting your license now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't know." So that's like an agent getting their license today.
Right.
And people are like, "Why are you getting?" Everybody has a different timeline. And if you're willing to put in the work, anybody can be successful no matter what year you get in.
Yeah.
I believe that.
2012. That's true. Yeah. Okay. So just for context, energy industry was down. We had a heavy energy economy here locally, and we still do, but quite a bit more. We're like big into healthcare and technology now. I forgot you had a third kid.
Yeah, I have 3 boys. I know. He turns 4 next week.
So you got pregnant. So you were home for a week trying to figure out how you were going to get diapers and stuff. And then they're like, "Oh, the stores are closed."
Literally. I mean, I was set up for a while, but the biggest thing was having 2 other small children at home with me. That was the hardest part. But Jonathan didn't really work much, so that was helpful. It was all a blur, truthfully,
It was. It was. It was hard on a lot of people.
Yeah.
We were, the boys continued to have school, but all of a sudden, at a time when everyone was going through the weirdest thing that probably most of us had gone through at the time, and we were the busiest we had ever been,
Right.
regardless of how many years of experience you had at the time. And then all of a sudden, my wife had to become a teacher. I was stuck at home working, which was cool, but I had to close the door. They were here. They couldn't figure out why Daddy was home, but he wasn't coming out to
Right.
hang out.
Yeah.
She had to learn how to be a teacher all of a sudden to children that are normally accustomed to playing and really just learning social cues and how to interact with other children. And
Well,
fortunately,
I
it
was
all
hanging
worked
on a
out.
prayer because I was like, well, if my kid doesn't pass kindergarten, then they're just not going to pass kindergarten because I didn't do the teacher bit.
Yeah.
I just didn't. And he passed, so all's good.
Well, Dad was probably happy in a way. Like most dads, oh, my kid will be big for sports.
Oh, right. Something good can come out of it. Oh, if Jonathan had his way, he'd have a soccer academy where they play soccer like 4 or 5 hours of the day and then do like a little bit of learning on the side. Like, I don't know if that thing exists, but that's what he would do if he could have his way.
Well, perhaps you just got a business idea.
Oh, he's had the idea,
Yeah.
but perhaps it will come to fruition. I don't know.
I hear
Probably
a lot of new education models talk about having more concise and shorter like bursts of learning to make sure attention is up.
Yeah.
Especially if they know they're going to go do something fun. Like if it's kids who want to play soccer,
Right.
it's like, okay, we got to go back. But look, we got to pay attention so we can go back and play soccer again. Mm-hmm. And maybe they learn more.
Maybe.
Who knows? Talk to me about if you have one, your morning routine.
Okay. Well, my morning routine has changed because I used to be up at 5 a.m.
Okay.
I would go work out and
You'd leave the house or
I would
like in the
leave
garage?
the house. I would go to cycle classes. I would go to body pump. I would do just all the workouts at 5 a.m.
Okay.
I did recently, in September, I had a very serious tendonitis where my tendon is fraying.
Okay.
So I am no longer able to hardcore cycle. I cannot run. I cannot do like weight squats. I cannot do any of that. So I don't wake up at 5 a.m. anymore. Do you have a question?
What's hardcore cycling?
Like cycle bar, like intense. If you've never done it, it's like the
I have.
most. Okay.
I got through. I was very competitive with the leaderboard. I did.
Yeah.
Actually, it was an industry thing. I forget who put it on. I think it was a charity.
Yeah, no, it's super fun and I loved it. And
it was fun.
I'm still
So you're talking
grieving
about like
that.
taking like spinning classes, but you can ride a bike like casually.
I can, yes.
Okay.
I can ride a bike. I cannot stand and like do like all the like choreography of a spin class.
Gotcha.
Which if you've never done that, then none of that would make sense to anybody. Nonetheless, I cannot do that anymore.
I think everybody knows about spinning, considering how big Peloton got during.
that
during
is
COVID.
that is very true. That is true.
Yeah.
So now I do Pilates and I anyway, that is a tangent off of my morning routine. I wake up at 6:30, get the kids up, get them to school, then I go to Red's and I do a Pilates class there. And that typically kicks off my day.
So you're dressed, ready to go 9:30, 10, something like that?
Yes. Now my schedule could change if a client needs me earlier than that. But most of the time I'm at my office working or in work mode by 9.
Do you have better energy working from the office or working from the house?
I'm a little bit of both. I used to.
Which one do you do more? Like if it's 60-30?
Office.
Okay.
Okay. To answer your question, I'm the most productive when I'm in my office.
Okay.
No matter where my office has changed over the years. And I know that if I'm sitting down at my computer, I'm a to-do list type of girl. I'm going to write down everything I have to do the night before and check my list, or I'll email myself the to-do list. So if I'm in the office, I'm working. I'd say 80-20.
80 office.
80 office.
With showings in between.
Yeah,
closings.
showings, appointments. Also, I'm a mom and they have, all these just days off. So I just have to work from home sometimes.
Yeah.
Which I'm very grateful that I have a flexible position to do.
And you're okay on the phone. So if you're making phone calls from the house, you're fine.
All I have to do is hey guys, like I have 3 children in the background, so just like I'm apologizing now. And
Yeah.
most people are like, oh, my kids are home too.
Yeah.
So
I've found that that's been helpful lately. Like so the kids were out of school this week for Mardi Gras.
yeah,
I have dogs. So kind of mostly working from home this week, but set the expectation up front. Like, hey, if you hear a dog, it's because I'm working from the house this week.
right.
You know,
And that is honestly talking about body language. Saying things like that is a very relatable
Yeah.
thing. So when you're talking on the phone, they're like, oh, I'm not talking to a robot who is sitting at his perfect desk, you know?
That's right.
Y'all got a new office though, right?
I do think I have a perfect desk, but
Well, you probably do have a perfect desk, but no one can see it.
I have to though. I'm a clutter freak. Like if I have stuff everywhere, or if I have multiple monitors and one of them's a different size, and I can't focus. And I don't have ADD, but like it has to be a certain way.
You would not be able to work in my office.
No. My parents. I lived at home during college. They always knew whenever I had a test at UL because my room was like perfectly clean. I could literally have like a book 2 inches from my face and my eyes would immediately try to look. All I would see around was like if I had stuff on the floor. And so
Just your nervous energy, like you need.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But when it's clean, like I was good.
Good.
Yeah.
That's to set up your environment to be like your best learning self is very important.
Have you incorporated, one thing I've incorporated a lot this year is video. I mean, obviously but client facing stuff.
Yeah.
I find, so one thing that I do that I think some people are uncomfortable with or going to probably have to start getting comfortable with, and including myself, like being consistent and consistently doing it is when I can't get someone on the phone. A lot of people don't check voicemails anymore.
Right.
It's just a thing. Some people with jobs that require them to answer the phone don't have they use the pre-recorded voicemail message from the system and don't have a personalized greeting. Mm-hmm. So I'll typically follow that up. I used to follow it up with a text. Hey, if you don't check your voicemail, hey, this is Derek. MaryBeth Walsh from asked me to reach out. Sounds like you were looking into purchasing a home. I'd like to help you. Give me a shout. Now I'll send video messages that way so that they really know.
That's actually a really good idea. I should probably do that.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully it's helping more than hurting. But I would think it's at least neutral. You mentioned the robot earlier. Like, hey, this isn't just like an automated thing or some person in a cubicle with 100 people around.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm cognizant about like what the background looks like, and sometimes if I worry too much about it, I don't come across natural. So like I don't care what's behind me, or I'll do it walking out to the car. Like, hey, I wanted to give you a shout. I'm going to be out of pocket for the next hour, so I'm going to pick up the kids. I have the car behind me. You know, something like that. But again, relatable.
Mm-hmm. I would be so worried. I'm like, okay, let me go like put my blazer on real quick, make sure I like look professional. Professional appearance is very important to me though. Yeah. So if I ever do videos, like you probably won't catch me with a ponytail.
Yeah. I think it depends. It depends on where you are.
Yeah.
If you're
at the soccer fields, then that's a different story.
Well, that if it's the first impression, it's the first. It goes back. You never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
I mean that could probably ring true for the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
You probably wouldn't do that on the first one.
Right.
If I've been working with somebody for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe we're a week away from closing, and I'll send a quick update sometimes.
Yeah.
By that point, I think we're all friends.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
That's good. That's a really good idea.
Going back to routines, I was asking you specifically about a morning one. What are some daily activities that you try to be, we're not perfect, right? But consistently do 60, 70, 80% of the time to try to have work be consistent? Are there things that you shoot for all the time, like X amount of calls a week, maybe where you're not pigeonholing yourself for a certain day, but if you get in stuff for a certain week, or like what types of activities are you roll? Some days some weeks are heavier with some things and heavier with other, depending on like how life and work is going at the time.
Yeah. This is probably not going to make me sound great, but I kind of wing it most days. Like I don't have a sit down schedule.
I don't either.
I have my own maybe subconscious like system that I go through,
Right.
but
Like, you know, if something's off, you can pinpoint it if you sit down and think about the things you either did or didn't do leading up to that point where something seems off.
right,
Okay.
right. So for a very long time, I was so focused on getting to the office for 7:15, making my 20 calls a day, scheduling my appointment at, don't leave the office until you schedule that appointment. And whereas all of that produced a lot of results for me in my season of life right now, where I have children that have different sort of needs, and don't forget the groceries, and like all of this things. So I kind of given myself a lot more grace as far as like not being so
Just
forced.
rigid,
Yeah.
structured. Forced is a good one.
And it's really worked for me. Like in my mental capacity, like I know what I can handle and I know what I can't. Obviously, if my phone rings and a client needs to go show a house at 4:00 today, I'm gonna make that happen. I also, because I wing it a lot, I will be, let's say I'm driving to the grocery store and I pass a client on the road, or I just think of a random person that just popped in my mind.
Yeah.
I pick up the phone and I call them. Hey girl, what you doing? Like, and that is a lot of my lead generation. It's who comes to mind.
I think things just come to you sometimes. I have a photographic memory with music. Like, for example, I remember hearing the song Linger by the Cranberries in the 7th grade. And I remember being in the back seat with 3 of my buddies. We were going to our first ever middle school basketball game. Like, my mind just immediately goes there when I hear it.
Yeah.
Same thing, what's probably happening with you, because it happens with me. It's quieter when I'm in the car.
I don't even listen to music.
Especially if you're driving by yourself.
Yeah.
My mind will just ebb and flow on its own. But maybe I drive by something and I see a particular vehicle and I know the client had one, right? That's when
Right.
you
It just triggers.
call,
Yeah.
or, hey, the first time I met him was in the parking lot at Target. You pass up Target. Hey, it just,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing.
Whether it's a thing or not, like people ask me all the time, like how do you get so much repeat business? Because majority of my business is either client referrals or repeat business. And it's truly...
But that's good. That's what we want.
Right, because they already know and trust you, right?
Now they get to see you.
Now they get to see me, right, with all these videos I want to do. Just relationships is the name of the game, right? And real estate is so fickle that if I did not cling to the relationships that I have already built and that I truly like care for, then I should just go get another career, because like that's what juices me. Like I get so jazzed when I'm like, I just called my friend and like now get to go to lunch tomorrow, and it's just like, that's that is what energizes me.
Talk to me about how our conversations may or may not have changed with clients over the last year as the activity has slowed down.
Okay. So activity has slowed down in a sense, but kind of touching on what we just talked about, like my conversations with clients and friends never really slowed down. And so for me, when someone's like, oh, I heard the market's like, and I'm like, I mean, maybe interest rates are much higher than they used to be. And everyone has a season as to why they need to buy or sell or invest or rent or land or build or like whatever it is. And so I truly value myself as a resource. So like, yes, I can be a realtor all day long. And at the end of the day, that's how I get paid, is whatever is closing in that month. And to be a resource has helped me so much. Like, let's say...
Like, you're the girl to call because you know a girl, you know a guy. hey, I need help with this.
Yeah, like who's your AC guy? Oh, I got you. Who's your insurance guy? I got you. Oh, I need a plumber. Got that too. Like I have a really strong network of other professionals that just kind of helps me in a way stay connected with other people, and then ultimately at the end of the day when they need to actually sell their house or to buy, hopefully I'm the one to call. That did not answer your question. However, kind of our conversations are different, but now instead of a potential buyer, for instance, being like, okay, when's the right time to buy? Well, in my opinion, if it's right for you, it's right for me. If it's the market, then we need to figure out, do we need to adjust your budget? Do we need to, like, how can we fit this into your life plan? But truthfully, if someone's like, hey, how's the market? As a natural, optimistic person,
Sure.
I'm not going to say it's awesome. But in my world, it is awesome. Because the clients that are choosing to buy or sell and that are choosing me, like it is my goal to make sure they have the best experience no matter what the market conditions are.
Right.
And so, and ultimately at the end of that, if they have the best experience, no matter what the market conditions are, then they will tell all of their family and friends about, can you believe I just bought a house for 7% interest rate? Good news is they're not that high anymore. And we still are in the house that we love and we had the best experience. So I'm just kind of a glass half full kind of girl. And so whereas it's not ideal to be lower in the market, I really still feel like it's healthy. And my personal business, like, remained healthy.
That's good.
In what others would call a low market.
So your consistent activity, I asked you about that earlier, and you said you kind of free flow, but basically you're keeping in touch with your people.
I mean, yes, I'm keeping in touch with my people, and I say a lot of that.
Don't undersell that.
Okay.
A lot of people don't do that.
But I write a lot of thank you notes. I send, like one of my clients had a baby. I sent them diapers or, a small gift or a meal. Took another client a meal when their husband was sick. I have to do what feels natural, what I would do anyway.
That's right.
Like quite literally, I would do all of those things. That's how I was raised. Like my mom, if she knew somebody was sick, she's like, I'm on my way with some chicken noodle soup, So it's really kind of cool now that like I am an adult. We're adults, right? It's weird because sometimes I feel like,
well, you're still a kid.
Where did I get here?
You're still a kid. You're not 40 yet.
Right.
I'm old.
Give
I'm an
me
adult.
8 months. But it's so interesting how, like, growing up, you witness your parents doing
Sure.
things that may or may not were intentional for you to see. But, like, I take little things like that with me every day. And that's really, like, special for me.
Well, the boys are watching you now, so.
Yes, they are. They watch everything, the good and the bad and the ugly.
The structure versus kind of like free flowing. I'm not an extreme person, kind of on either end. I can thrive in both, but I don't like to be hardcore.
Yeah.
One kind of way, because if I do, it doesn't
Feel natural.
It doesn't feel natural.
And hear me say, like, there's a time to be rigid. Like, I know, like, oh man, I don't have much on the books. My pipeline isn't as thick as it needs to be, or whatever that term is. And so I know when I need to put in more effort, and not that anything else is lax. Just like everything, there's a season for everything.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. Different times may call for different things.
Yep.
Ideally, all of the times would just call for the things you like to do the most.
Yeah.
that are the easiest and
Yeah.
the most natural, but
For sure.
sometimes, you know, you have to be prepared to do the things you don't like.
Yeah. That's right.
Um,
That's right.
the hard things, and really and truly, like, they're not hard.
Right.
We say that they're hard. I mean, we're still all kids at heart. We
Yeah.
want to do things with the least amount of friction that are the most fun.
That's right.
And just not how it works.
That cycles through my mind a lot. I actually made a video about, I think it was like 7 years ago, and it pops up every year, and it's like the most watched video I've ever made. And I had just finished running 3 miles, and I'm like sweating, sitting in my car. It was like July, and I kept reminding myself on that run, which is ultimately why I did the video, is like, this is not that hard. Like,
Sure.
losing a parent is hard.
That's right.
Diagnosis of cancer or whatever disease, that's hard. Eating chicken and broccoli and going for a walk, that is not hard. And like, that is just like my mantra. Like, it's not that hard.
It might not be fun.
It may not be
But it's
fun,
not
and it's
hard.
probably going to be maybe a little bit challenging. Yeah, you got to push through that last mile, or like you're sweating and it's uncomfortable, like whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's not that hard.
It's not.
So choose your hard.
One thing, I like that. Choose your hard. One of the biggest things, I feel like, I guess, gifts I get inadvertently from people that I speak to, whether they become clients or not, is a massive dose daily of perspective. Now, I'm taking it in. How I choose to process it after that is another story, right?
Yeah.
Some people hear, but I listen. So maybe I hang up the phone and thought I was having a bad day, or this didn't go quite like I wanted, or whatever. And then I don't have to have anything bad happen. You know, we're talking about losing parents and all that stuff. I don't have to have anything bad happen for me to have perspective. The people I talk to every day give it to me.
Correct. I hear that.
And I think that it is giving me an opportunity to live daily with more compassion and more empathy.
Gratitude.
Gratitude, right? It's kind of like perspectives up here, and then it just kind of branches out into all of those things you really want to have incorporated into your life as much as possible.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. But so that is one thing. I mean, obviously I always hear people on the phone and I have to listen due to the nature of our work, but I am doing I'm doing multiple types of listening.
Yeah.
And take away, and I share stories with the kids, you know, with my wife, and it's part of teaching them how to deal. Like, hey, look, we don't really have it that bad. Here, what if it was this? What if we didn't have that?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You know, those sorts of things, and in the same way that I mean, like, I don't have to go through bad things to have the perspective. I can teach them life lessons, hopefully without them having to go through things too. I mean, they're still going to have to go through things. Those are the things that they're going to remember the most, but I get to share a lot of that also.
Yeah. No, that's so
It
good.
it really does give us a lot.
Your life lessons.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier when you came down from North Louisiana, you were at Keller Williams. You were there for a while, made a switch at some point, I believe in the last 18 months. I lose track of time.
Yeah.
Came from a team. I believe you were one of the team leads. How are things now? Are you in the same format, same structure?
Right. So I was at Keller Williams and dually on the team for 9 years. Really great experience. Had a wealth of knowledge, a lot of coaching, just a lot of experience throughout that process. So I did change brokerages. I'm now at Next Home. And my girl, Jean, we share an office. And so our day-to-day looks pretty different than when we were on a team. It's more of, we are not a team. We work together.
Okay.
We share resources. We share marketing, but I'm the marketing girl. Like, newsflash, that's me. But we're not a team. We do not operate on a team. We do not share money or anything like that. our circles cross a lot with school, with soccer, with neighborhoods, with everything. And so now we are able to just kind of do what we love. We're moms first, we're real estate agents, and we like to have fun. And so
Now, she introduced you to a cycle bar, right?
she did introduce me to cycle bar. Yeah.
It's amazing what you can
RIP.
find out if you scroll on your phone.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's actually how I found out about the charity thing, like a handful of years back,
Yeah, probably so.
where I didn't come in first place,
Yeah.
but I didn't cry. So
You probably wanted to. But it's hard. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my business looks a little bit different, but mainly it's the same. Like the clients who choose to work with me, and we still work very well together, the loyalty is still there. So multiple people have said, like, we're working with you. It doesn't necessarily matter who holds your license. It's, we like how you work with us and you do a great job, or like whatever that is. So I've been very, very fortunate, and I do not take it lightly that people, clients, friends, family have chosen to continue to work with me, and life's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a fan of your of her. We're alumni. I actually knew her before you.
Yes.
I think she was a couple years behind me in school.
Yeah.
And we lived in the same neighborhood also.
Yeah.
So how did y'all hook up just in general? I mean, again, you're not from here.
Right. So
Through work?
We met, actually, we have a very mutual friend that's, I consider a very close friend, and it's one of her best friends that she grew up with. And that's actually how we met, like many, many years ago. Let's see, her daughter is 8. And so I met her when she was pregnant with her. So 8 years ago is how I met her. And then she got into real estate. And then the more we got to know each other,
She got in because of you?
She did not.
Okay.
No, she actually got in because of one of our other realtor friends.
Okay. So you're not her OG like Robin was your OG?
No.
Okay.
No.
I like calling you OG though, so you're going to be the OG.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
I can hang with that. So we just work well together. Like she is very good at what she does. And we just, like I said, a lot of it is just having a good time together. She has her own clientele. I have my own clientele. We just do the thing. I don't know.
It's good.
Probably should be.
It's good to have a running mate.
Yes.
There's going to be days where I'm sure you pick her up, and probably days where she picks you up.
And that is something that I was just about to say. It's like, if I need encouragement, or, if she needs me to go show a house for her, or, whatever, it's just a mutual understanding. Like, I got you. Like, we're in this together.
So question about, you mentioned the story in the mall. It's got me thinking. There had to have been at least one other fun thing that you did. But that was crazy.
Okay. One of my lifelong dreams is to write a book. Okay. I'm not going to write a real estate book, but my book will probably include some of the craziest things that have happened to me.
Okay.
In real estate. So yes, meeting people at the mall was wild. Another crazy thing that's happened is I was representing a buyer, and we were doing our inspection, and the house catches on fire.
While you're there?
While we're there. There was a 2-story house, something with the AC, and it like blew up.
No way.
So that was crazy.
So you got to go and tell the client, they didn't end up buying the house?
No, they bought the house. Because the sellers had to remedy all the damage. So they got a free paint job out of the whole deal.
Wow.
Like the whole house had to be painted. I mean, they remedied the damage in the attic part. But they bought the house.
Wow.
It's going to be coming up for sale in about 2 months.
Nice.
Yeah.
So hopefully at some point, you coming up for sale. So you've been in touch with them lately.
Mm-hmm.
in between now and the time they bought, you kept in
Yes,
touch
they
occasionally?
bought 5 years ago.
Okay. How many times did you tell them how grateful they should be that you saved their life?
Well, I didn't save their life, truthfully. The house was on fire, and we were like, the house is on fire. It was kind of crazy.
You did save their life. Ask me why.
Why?
Because you probably strongly recommended that they get a home inspection before they proceed with the purchase.
Oh, you're right. You're so right. Because
No, but it is true in all seriousness. You could have not fought them on it, and lo and behold, they get in the house and they call you 2 weeks later because
their
they
house
love you,
burned down.
right? And hey, we need another house.
Yeah.
And then your brain locks up because you have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. No, you're so right.
Get a home inspection.
Get a home inspection. And even if an inspection is for information purposes only, it's just that. It is knowledge.
It's cheap insurance
that you have for your house. It's a peace of mind. It's insurance for a huge investment.
And it doesn't have to be for old houses.
No.
The house that we're in was new construction when we bought, was not the first home that we were under contract on. We were under contract on a 2.5-year-old home in a relatively new neighborhood, but more established than this one. And our home inspection revealed that there was something deficient, but the home inspector couldn't pinpoint without completely ripping off part of the front fascia of the house. He said, man, this could be like $3,000 or it could be 20, like if the whole thing has to get replaced.
Yeah.
And we had some pretty contentious negotiations trying to get under contract. So I knew there was no way that the seller would even go for it. So fortunately that happened within our due diligence period, and we backed out.
Yeah.
And then we came and did one on a new construction home, which some people think is a waste of money. It's not.
It's not.
But I tell people all the time, because they'll come and ask me, and I say, hey, look, it's not required for the loan, strongly recommended. And then people, it's stickier if you tell stories. People like stories. And I'll tell them a story. It's like, look, I paid for 2 home inspections. I didn't look at it as though I had wasted $450. That was the best $450 I ever spent.
Right.
Because I sure as shit didn't want to, the biggest bill I have every month, regret paying for it because I had a home that cost me maybe 20 grand the moment I walked it through the door. So yeah, home inspections.
Yes.
So
yes.
you saved their life.
Thank you.
What a gal. Please tell him that.
Yes.
Like before the next time you talk to him.
Okay.
Okay.
I will.
Tell him, and if you feel uncomfortable, tell him I told you to do it.
Okay. Noted.
So I wanted to go back to routines for a second. You had mentioned that you kind of wing it. I know what you're talking about when you say wing. I like to use the word flow, right?
Okay.
So my days will kind of flow, but I have to be flexible.
Yeah.
And part of being flexible is certain days are going to call for some things, other days will call for other things, and that's a multitude of things that are going to affect that. How am I feeling?
Yeah.
How is the family doing? What's going on with work? All of those things. So I would tell you, like I struggle with structure, but I finally became okay with it because I know if I'm too structured, the client's not going to get the best version of me that I want to give to them. Right? It's more natural.
Yeah.
My empathy, all of the things that someone may perceive as good that I give or that they get from me.
Yeah.
More of that is going to come out if it's just more natural. And I'm not natural if I'm a robot. You still got to do the hard things, still got to do things you don't want, right? We teach that to the kids. But it's not a massive part. You talk about the 80-20 rule for stuff. 80%, and the one that people talk about the most is 80% of the 20% of the people make 80% of money. It doesn't matter what profession, but 80-20 is kind of like this applicable law almost across things. So mine is like 80% of the time I'm going to be doing me. 20% I know to allow me to be me, I got to do that 20% also. But do you?
Yeah.
Keep doing you.
I think
it's
that
work.
a lot of
works.
it, well, thank you. And I do feel I do feel successful, and money or not, like I've never been motivated by money. And so for me to have our nice home and our healthy family and to have the friendships and relationships that I have, like that's what I view as success. And also I'm a realist. So like you touched on like how you're feeling that day. Like if I'm having a very sad day, like grief comes in at unexpected times. If I'm having a really sad day, like I may not get out of bed that day. I may have to get the kids off to school, and then I may get right back in bed. Like I don't want to be perceived as this perfect picture because I'm like dressed professionally and I like show up to work in my heels and my lipstick. Because for a very long time, I felt like I had to do that to impress whoever was in front of me.
Well, the cool thing, those can be text and email days.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or
Right.
you have a lot of appointments that day. Hey, I'm unavailable until 2:00 with pre-scheduled stuff. Let's chat this afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm just very grateful for Lafayette, really. I mean, we've been here for 10 years.
A decade.
A whole decade. And coming to a community where we didn't know anyone, and now like I'm so proud of us, like me and Jonathan, like we built our family here. We are thriving in our careers. We've made like really lifelong friendships, and like we did that like together. Like nobody else could have done that for us. And now we're in Lafayette and we'll probably live here forever. So
It's a great place to live.
it's the best. And yes, I miss Ruston, and I go visit. All my family's there, so like I want to visit, but it's just speaking of perspective, giving myself a perspective of moving from a small town to a very large place humbled me.
Here being large.
Here being large. I mean, Ruston's like 40,000 people.
Okay.
I don't know what the population is now.
3-4 times bigger here.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's just wild to
Perspective is good though. We had it too. We moved away for 6.5 years. Had our second son, moved back. There's things that we were in a southwest suburb of Houston. There's things that we miss.
Yeah.
When we were there were things we missed about here. There were things that we thoroughly liked about being there. And then when we came back, which is where we are now,
Yeah.
there are things that we missed a lot that we're super glad to be having. And then do we miss things about there? Sure.
Yeah.
But it works best for us where we are right now. You know, and maybe that's forever. Maybe we move again, but
Yeah.
we're glad to be back.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's the best. And one of my favorite things about my role as a realtor is to welcome families who are moving to Lafayette. Like I literally do this grand tour. Like I show them all over town. I take them to Youngsville and to other little areas just to make sure they know exactly where they want to live, exactly the neighborhoods, the type of place they want to be. And a lot of my business is people moving out of town or out of state to Lafayette.
Really?
And so that's been a really fun thing because it's kind of like I've done that, like arms wide open. Like I'm going to help you. You need somebody to cut your hair. Like back to the resource thing. Like one of my clients was moving here from Virginia.
You do realize that somebody watching this on the internet is going to want to move here and they're going to call you, right?
I would love that. One of my clients moved here from Virginia, and I met her at an open house. And I talked to her just the other day. She's like, you were the first person we ever met in Lafayette. And so we've stayed in touch, and I would send her like the Mardi Gras parade schedule and things like that. And so a couple months later, she was like, okay, we're ready to buy a house. Thanks for not being annoying. And I'm like, wait, what? And she was like, seriously, do you know how many realtors will like call me every day? And I'm like, oh, well, it's part of our job, like the cold calling. And she's
Stop
like,
clicking on stuff at the internet.
right.
On the internet.
And she was like, but seriously, like you never pressured us to do anything or to meet with you that when we weren't ready. And now we're ready, and we're going to buy a $600,000 house. And we already know the house we're going to buy. We went to the open house last week. So let's do this. And I'm like, that's the best compliment ever. It's like, thanks for not being annoying.
Yeah. And look, sometimes that doesn't work out. And
Right.
you have to be okay with that.
You have to be okay with
Sometimes
that.
people, you want to be, they'll forget, you get forgotten no matter how memorable you think you are.
Yeah.
Or that they thought you were at that point in time. 72 hours later,
Yeah.
a lot of that has to do with clicking on the internet all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's,
But I'm friends with Zillow. I want y'all to hear that. Like, I'm friends with Zillow. You have to be, actually.
it's the world we live in now.
It's the world we live in. Yeah.
Now we market through podcasts like this.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So, well, good. I think my big takeaway is, especially when you were telling me the story about how, obviously you were an out of towner coming in. I think the biggest glow on your face today was talking about getting to work with your out of towners. So the big takeaway on a very basic level is treat people how you want to be treated, and you do that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you. I guess I can thank my mom and dad for that.
That's right. That's right.
But no, thanks for having me and letting me share just a little bit about who I am and what I do. And I look forward to all the things and work. Hopefully we can capture some more buyers together.
Maybe so.
Yep.
It's always a pleasure. The realtor with two names.
Oh yeah. Your favorite realtor with two names.
That's right.